already. The Hawaii Farmers Union is about 6 years old. We're a branch of or a chapter of the National Farmers Union, which is the oldest agriculture advocacy group in the country. It's been around for 114 years. And it was started by Texas cotton farmers that wanted to basically fix the price of cotton for themselves instead of having the cotton processors pitting them against each other all the time. And so, kind of in that, the Farmers Union has maintained that cooperative spirit in all of its ventures ever since then. And it's really bottom-up organization, it's a grassroots organization. The membership decides all the policy, elects all of the board members at the state and at the local levels. And we have a lot of autonomy in our local chapters and in our state chapter, which kind of makes the Farmers Union different from the Farm Bureau. So we can kind of advocate for what we believe in as the Hawaii Farmers Union. And for us, that's really been about supporting regenerative forms of agriculture and promoting more local food production, more local energy production. And so we've had a lot of efforts in the last few years working in the state legislature. The hemp bill is some fruit of that. The Hawaii Farmers Union was big in sponsoring the hemp bill in the last legislative session. A different version of it got passed in this last session. And on Maui, where the original chapter of Hawaii Farmers Union was started, they've really got a lot of innovative projects going. They have a nutrient recycling facility that they've been able to get county and state funding for. It's going to produce compost and create natural farming inputs. And they have a really great farm mentorship program where they're pairing young people with successful farmers and also classes like coursework and then getting those folks out on the land. And so we'd like to see, and in the state organization, we'd like to see that spread out to all the chapters and all the islands. So it's just a matter of getting more membership, getting people interested and want to do the work and to get involved. So I would encourage you all to take a look. There's some pamphlets up there for the Farmers Union. You can go to the website and feel free to ask any questions and that sort of thing. But I'd like to turn the floor over to our presenters. I don't know who wants to go first here. But we got all sorts of interesting presenters.
Oh, sure. Thank you. I'll take it. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Bree. I am from the Kohala Center. For anyone who's not aware of the Kohala Center, we're a nonprofit. We're based in Waimea, but our programs are actually statewide. We focus on programs in food, water, place, and people. And under our food programs, one of the main programs we have is what I work for, which is our rural and cooperative business development services. So what we offer is business development and financial management planning services to farmers and aggregated producers, so for example, value-added producer. So we have a full-time cooperative development specialist, and she works in helping farmers establish cooperatives, which allows you to pool your resources and knowledge into a cooperative system. And then my title is Rural Business Development Specialist, and what I offer along with my colleague Crystal is looking at funding opportunities for farmers. So you would come to us and we provide a consultation and look at what your needs are and see what type of funding is out there. Whether that's grants, we can offer grant writing, and if we're not capable of writing the grant ourselves, we'll assist you in doing the application and looking and identifying different types of loan options, including those of the FSA and Farm Credit Services. We also manage our own microloan program called the Kakiao Microloan Program. What's really unique about our program is we offer heavy technical assistance along with the microloan. So what that means is we'll help you actually prepare your loan application package, including the financial statements that are usually required for a commercial loan. So your profit and loss statement, your income statement, your balance statement, we will help you produce those. And they are required for our loan, but they will also, that's something that's going to be required for any commercial loan that you might go for down the road. And the way we help you create those is we teach QuickBooks. So part of the program is actually an intensive QuickBooks training and helping you have your farm get set up in QuickBooks, which, if anyone that's not familiar with it, is an online accounting and record keeping system. Along with that, usually required in commercial loans is cash flow projections. So I'll also assist you in doing that by coming up with a personalized record keeping system for you, and then doing production planning, and through that then cash flow projections for your farm up until 2 or 3 years out. So in combination with that, if you're also starting out, if you're just thinking about starting a farm business, then we can help you with business planning as well. We can't write a full business plan for you, but we can offer assistance to help you write it yourself. So that's why our microloan program, the Caveat program, is a great start off. You know, if you've never gotten a loan before. It's also great because if your credit isn't that fantastic, or you've never worked with a loan, we don't we don't require any collateral. It's a really low fixed interest rate of 2%, and it's negotiable repayment terms. So it's between $2,000 and $15,000, and anyone is eligible who's native Hawaiian or Kama'aina. So if you've been born and raised in Hawaii, you're considered eligible. So yeah, as I was saying, it's just a great starting off point. If you don't have good credit necessarily, you're just starting off, and usually maybe provide more financial know-how will get you to that place, and then you can graduate to the FSA loan or Farm Credit Service loan, and eventually maybe commercial loan if needed. So yeah, we also have a crowdfunding program. If anyone's familiar with crowdfunding, like Kickstarter, well, it's a loan, it's a lender, so it's 0% interest loans, and it's called Kiva Zip. So the same way that Kickstarter, that's more considered a donation, this would be considered a loan, but it's 0% interest, and we can help you get your profile started for Kiva Zip. And we also offer, in collaboration with the county, the Hawaii Island Food Producers Fund. So that's a matching fund. So if you are interested in raising, and farmers are eligible for up to $10,000 on Kiva Zip, this Hawaii Island Food Producers Fund can provide a match for up to 50%. So what that means is, through this crowdfunding site, you'll just be able to get to your goal much faster, and we can help facilitate that entire process as well. So since our microloan is really a micro loan, it's only up to $15,000. A lot of people who have come through that program also are interested in doing the Kiva Zip crowdfunding program as well. So I have fact sheets about our microloan program and brochures about our entire Rural Business Development Services on the table, and my card. So if you're interested in having, we provide a 1-hour consultation, and can look at what your needs are and how we may be able to help you. And if we're not able to help you, we're also really invested in then referring to people who might be able to help you. For example, I brought some small business development services, small business development centers brochures. They're really apt at doing feasibility studies and business plans, which a lot of people are interested in because those are required for a lot of grants as well. So thank you for listening, and should I take questions, Kyle?
Yeah, questions would be great.
Sorry, right there. Any questions?
What kind of qualifications you need for the Kiva Zip? Is that specific to people applying as
No, that's not. It can be anyone. And the only difference between being a farmer and if you could be any small business or enterprise is that instead of $5,000, you're eligible for $10,000. But there's no other eligibility.
Okay.
So we offer land acquisition loans?
Do we? No, we do not. Our microloan program can be used for anything, so there's no requirements on that. You can use it towards a down payment, use for equipment, etc., which is what I recommend it for, because a lot of grants out there aren't eligible for, sorry, I wanted to mention this, a lot of grants aren't eligible, the funding isn't eligible for equipment or land acquisition, so that's where loans are obviously much more in your favor.
I have a question that's not necessarily related to funding, but in the case of, just my specific example is that I've been looking a little bit into the H-2A program to bring in immigrant and paperwork burden for that is insane. So is that something that you guys can offer assistance with, just like help filling out paperwork and waiting for whether it's a loan application or something like that?
I don't know how the extent of legality, so we can't really give any type of legal advice, so if it's a paperwork related to that, it might be limited. We're looking into doing that, because it seems like we're looking for funding in order to provide some kind of legal assistance as well. So I'm not sure how far that would go, but any other type of loan applications, we're able to, help and assist. And we can review, possibly review it and let you know if there's something that you're missing.
Just to kind of jump in, there's an organization out of Maui called MEO. MEO, Maui Economic Opportunity. And they have a group that does that.
Okay.
They're talking about bringing in labor and not necessarily bringing in labor, but help you go through a process.
Right.
What I'll do is maybe after it's me your name, your email, and I'll email you their contact for them.
Okay. Cool.
Great. Any other questions for me? All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Good evening. My name is Linus Tavares. I'm with Hawaii Farm Credit. Our office is here in Hilo, and we have an office in Honolulu. I'm originally from the island of Maui. I grew up on a small cattle operation. Went to school there, went to school in Chaminade on Oahu, and got my MBA there, and worked for Farm Credit, and I've worked for Farm Credit for going on 35 years. I am Executive Vice President with them. I take care of the Hilo branch, which takes care of Maui, Molokai, Kauai, Oahu. But we have a loan officer. I have another loan officer in Hilo, and we have one in Honolulu. But we kind of have the attitude, have loan will travel. So we pretty much cover the whole state. And in my years of service, I've made loans on every island. So I'm familiar with all the types of agriculture out there. Farm Credit System, of the group that's talking to you tonight, we're the only private company. We're not affiliated with any federal government or state agency. We're strictly a private lender out there, like any other commercial bank, to make a profit. But we focus just on agriculture. Our charter is to make agricultural loans. The Farm Credit System has been around since the time of the Great Depression. It was started exactly that, to help farmers get through the Great Depression, because times were hard to get money wasn't available for them to continue their farms, and we actually were started by the federal government. And then there were several different entities, Old Farmers
We should
Home
coordinate the
Administration,
times that we're at
and so forth.
Starbucks together.
And so we said, you know what, there's too many federal agencies, let's go private. Right now, the Farm Credit System nationwide is a $200 billion bank. We're broken up into associations. Each association is locally managed and owned. In Hawaii, we're small. We consider ourselves very small potatoes. We're one of the smaller associations in the country. We're like an $80 million bank, basically. So we're like a small branch of, say, maybe even California or something. We're considered really small, but in Hawaii, we consider ourselves a major player in the agricultural industry. We cover all of the different types of agricultural needs. Our main product is our land loans. Somebody asked about farm and land ownership. We're probably one of the only private lenders that will go 30 years on a vacant land loan. Fully amortized over 30. Most commercial banks will give you a term of 30, but a balloon after 3, and they want you to build a house on it so that they can do a house loan to you. They don't really want to do a farm loan, they want to do a house loan to you. Well, we'll give you a 30-year term, and if you want to build a house on it, fine. If you don't want to build a house on it, fine. You know, our main thing is that you do some type of agriculture. Again, some of our requirements are different from some of the federal and state agencies. We don't require you to be a full-time farmer. You can be a part-time farmer. In fact, we kind of like to see that outside income in case you have failures in the crop and all that kind of stuff. But, so you don't have to be a full-time farmer. You don't have to have 3 or 4 years of experience, although that would be great. You know, I mean, that gives you a step up on everybody. But as long as we can show income repayment source from some source, you know, that's the key for under our programs. So our land loan is our biggest product because nobody offers the type of terms we offer. Our rates, our commercial rates, we're at 5.25% for our long-term loans. You'll see a lot lower rates when these other individuals come and talk about the state and federal programs, but they are run on taxpayers' dollars. We are run off of commercial rates. We have to buy our money. In fact, how we get our money is from the sale of farm credit bonds. They sell bonds over the stock exchange, and that's where we get our money. You know, our bonds are like AAA rated, which is, you know, the top bonds. And you know, in one of my training programs, I went to New York and talked to the people that sold our bonds, and you know, they spoke very highly of our bonds, and we're like, well, who's buying these bonds? And they said, well, believe it or not, they said most of the bonds are bought by the foreign countries. And I said, really? And I said, why? Why would they buy U.S. farm credit bonds? And they said, because, and this is a big perk to all of you here. Foreign countries look at U.S. agriculture as some of the best agriculture in the world, best quality products, best dependability, food safety, all those kind of things, and they're like, we're going to buy anything, you know, U.S. is going to feed the world. So we're willing to bet on the U.S., and that's why our bonds sell so well, because of farmers like you and all over the United States. So, you know, we're kind of set up like a co-op in the sense when you do borrow from us, you actually purchase stock in our bank and you become a stockholder. So you have voting rights, you can vote. We have board of directors that are actually borrowers and farmers, and they get elected by the other farmers. And once you become a borrower, you can actually run for a board of directorship. But we kind of service the whole gamut of farmers. I mean, everything from cattle to papayas to ginger to sweet potato to coffee to macadamia nuts to tropical fruits, flowers, you name it. We can finance it. We can look at financing it. We also do equipment loans. We do operating loans. We do operating lines of credit. We do improvement loans if you want to build a barn, or we've done where we finance solar projects on farms. You know, a lot of times people come and ask me, so why are you different? Why can't I get that from First Hawaiian Bank or Bank of Hawaii or somebody else? And I says, well, there's several differences that I feel. I says, one, most of our people that work for us come from farming backgrounds. You go to a commercial bank, they do not come from farming backgrounds. They do very few and far between. And the loan officer you deal with today, you're probably going to deal with another one tomorrow. You're going to have to explain your whole farm to them all over again. When you come in and you sit down next to us, with our loan officers, we come from farming backgrounds. You don't have to tell us the difference between a banana and a papaya, and a cow and a pig, and a cow and a steer and a bull, and you know, and the difference between a sweet potato and ginger. You know, we know all that. We kind of live and breathe that, and so does all these other people from these different agencies. That's what we focus on a daily basis. The other big benefit with Farm Credit is we can tailor your repayment to your crop. You don't have to just have a monthly payment. There's commodities that we do set up on monthly payments. You know, probably still a majority of ours are monthly payments because, say, if you're a flower producer, you're harvesting and selling flowers every month. You know, if you're a vegetable producer, you're harvesting and selling vegetables every month. So you know, you tie in that way. But say now, if you're a coffee farmer, well, you start harvesting in August, September. By the time you get your first check, it's probably October. You know, season ends January, and now you don't have income from January through September again or October. You know, so to have you make payments either early in the season or late in the season doesn't really make any sense. So we might have an annual payment, where you pay once a year when you get all your crop in. We may have a semi-annual or a quarterly or monthly. So you kind of have that choice, but it's got to fit your product. Like I say, if you're farming flowers, you think, well, I only want an annual payment. I'm going to tell you, well, I don't think so, because you're getting cash flow every month. You know, so you should be able to service that on a monthly basis. But you know, cattle is another deal. You know, they might have 2 sets of calves a year, so that they can't pay it every month. They're waiting for those calves to grow so that they can sell them all at once. We'll tailor it to that sale. So that's a big difference. You know, a lot of times in Hawaii it's not as big a difference, but you know, if you're in the Midwest and you're harvesting corn, you're only going to get that money at one point in the fall. You know, or if you're doing wheat or if you're doing, you know, all of their crops kind of come due in the fall. So a lot of their payments are structured in. So we kind of meet all those guidelines. Like I said, this year we're pretty excited because this year Farm Credit is celebrating their 100th birthday. And Farm Credit here in Hawaii is celebrating our 50th birthday. So we've been in Hawaii for 50 years. And I've been with them for 35. I've seen, the sad part about that is I've seen the downfall of agriculture in Hawaii, really. I've seen pineapple get wiped out. I've seen sugarcane get wiped out like a lot of people. I've seen dairies, I've seen poultry, I've seen all those commodities really go to the wayside. You know, I mean, when I first started, I think we had something like 20 dairies in the state, and we financed most of them. We have 2 total, and they're on the side. And one's on the block to sell.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that kind of thing. Poultry, I mean, you know, it's all shrunk down, and it's not a slam against Hawaii agriculture. It's just cheaper to produce it and ship them in. That's the bottom line. When you know you're paying $25,000 to $30,000 an acre for land, and you're competing against guys that are paying $3,500 an acre for land, and their labor is 3 times cheaper than yours. What are you going to do? But it's people like you that, you know, are strong believers of sustainability. We do have to sustain ourselves, because if the shipping stops, we're in big trouble. You know, but anyway, I can go on and on because I have Portuguese blood. We could be here all night. But any questions?
I have a question. Could you talk a little bit about how your operational line of credit would work?
Okay. Again, I'll go back to well, a guy came in today, sweet potato farmer. So he's looking at, okay, you know, I need money to put in my crop to harvest. Now, your traditional operating loan usually covers your crop. You know, they'll plant one crop, and you provide them fertilizer, you provide them money for labor, you provide them money to live, and you kind of give them an operating budget. And that's how usually the operating loans do. But they have, like I say, the most mainland farms, they have one crop, and then they're done. Like if here in Hawaii, and I say for example, if you're a sweet potato farm, you've got probably cycles. You probably got 1 acre coming up this month, another acre coming up the other month, and you kind of got it going all year round, where you're always harvesting and planting. So in this case, you got to look at it as a giant credit card. You know, say we provide you a $100,000 line of credit, and you use that to plant your crop, harvest your crop. But what you have to discipline yourself is, when you get that money back, you got to pay down that line of credit. You know, it's not something that just stays out there. It's called a revolving line of credit. It has to revolve. You know, we like to see it actually at least once a year get to a 0 balance. So we like to see it as the money's out, you're charged interest quarterly on what's outstanding. So, you know, your interest cost depends on how much of that money you use. You know, people get, and I understand people get tempted to say, well, you know, they sell a crop and they want to put it in their bank because they want that feeling of having that cash. And, you know, I want that cash there. But I'm like, well, you're getting 0.5% for that cash in the bank, and you pay me 5.5%. So you're better off paying me down you know? And, because if it works right, and you use that for your operate, you pay that down, whatever's left is your profit for that year, you know? You paid your loan down, and whatever you get left, well, that's actually your profit, you know? If you can't pay that loan down, and you don't have the cash in the bank, then that tells you you lost money that year, you know? I mean, there's a lot of guys that come in and, you know, I ask them for budgets, especially old timers, and I don't make any loans. I says, well, how do you know you're making money? Well, at the end of the year, I have cash in my checking account, so I made money.
Oh.
And that's their mentality. But there's a little bit of truth to that. If you started with zero, you know, if you started with 10,000 and you still got 5,000 at the end of the year, well, you lost 5,000 somewhere. Unless you could have bought a piece of equipment or something. You know, there's different ways of looking at it. But anyway, that's a long answer to a short question.
So pretty much all of the different loans are at 5.5% interest.
The short term, say we're broken up into two segments. You'll see, like in our name, you'll see Farm Credit Services of Hawaii, and then you'll see the Federal Land Bank of Hawaii, and then you'll see Hawaii Production Credit Association. So the Federal Land Bank and Hawaii Production Credit is our two subsidiaries. Basically, the Federal Land Bank handles all long-term loans from 15 years to 30 years. Anything less than that are considered more operating loans, equipment loans. They come under Hawaii Production Credit. So the shorter term loans actually have a little higher interest rate. They're about 1/4% higher than the land loans. Land loans run about 5.25. The operating loans run about 5.5. Now, once you hear what these other guys' interest rates are, you're going to say, well, there's no sense even talking to Farm Credit. Let's go to the state and the feds. Well, part of the deal also is you know, they run off of taxpayers' dollars, and they're not there to compete with the commercial sector. Because in that, I mean, it'd just be like if the federal government would run a restaurant and compete with them, you know, with taxpayers' dollars. Well, yeah, you can get our sandwich for $2, and theirs is $5, you know, but you're running off of taxpayers' dollars. They can't compete that way. So a lot of times, before they go to them, they'll come to us and almost like get a denial. The feds and the state, and they'll come up and do this their deal, but you know, they're kind of the lenders of last resort if you cannot get credit from anywhere else, or there's no funding available. That's where we kind of differ. But you know, along those same lines, if you can qualify for their programs, by all means, you know, especially if you're starting off, that's what they're for. You know, they give you a cheaper rate, the better terms, so you can get your feet on the ground. Any other questions? I have some little notebooks over there and bumper stickers. Help yourself. My business card is there. Got any questions? Give me an email or call me. Our office is at 988 Kinole Street, right up the street here. There's a sign right up there, across from Elzert, or right next to Furniture Land. I always say Elzert because you can hear his motorcycles going all the time. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for having me.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Linda Kao. I'm with the USDA Farm Service Agency in Hilo, so we're federal. I'm the manager for Hawaii County, which is the entire Big Island. But I'm going to introduce you to my loan officer in training, Jennifer Valderas, and she will be giving tonight's presentation.
Go, Jennifer.
Okay, so as Linus kind of segued there into our agency, we are part of the federal government. We're the Farm Service Agency Farm Loan Program. We offer low interest loans for operating expenses and ownership purchases, capital improvements. It is for producers, farmers and ranchers who are the manager, owner, operator of their own operation, right? Not a processor. So we're there to help you get started. We have a microloan that was introduced in 2013, which actually is $50,000 or less. And it is for anybody who's starting out or who needs to borrow $50,000 or less. The application package was reduced and some of the requirements were reduced. Because prior to, if you wanted to get into agriculture, you had to show us at least 1 full year's complete production and marketing cycle. And a lot of people who wanted to get into it didn't have that. So now with the microloan, we have that ability to show either you have some experience in farming, you have some business management experience, you're working with a mentor, you have an apprenticeship program, and you want to get started. And so that's what our program is set up to do. Like I said, it's operating expenses, annual or term, you need to purchase some equipment, you need to clear some land, farm ownership, you're purchasing land, you're making capital improvements. Of course, we do have specific eligibility requirements, regulations that we have to follow to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and serving those producers who are unable to get credit elsewhere. Like Lina said, our interest rate for June is 2.25% for operating, and ownership is 3.5% right now. So, that's more to our advantage. And our operating loans can be from 12 months to 7 years. That's the maximum, 7 years. And then our ownership loans, we can go up to 40 years. And we, like Linus was saying, we don't have to have a house on the property. It can be for vacant land, whatever it is that you need, as long as you're showing it in your application, the purpose of your loan and how that's going to help your operation. So meeting eligibility requirements, then we check to see if it's feasible. Can you pay back the loan, your cash flow, and then collateral for the type of loan that you're going to be taking out with us. So anybody have any questions? It's kind of the short version.
Can you give me some parameters or some examples of people who've gotten land acquisition grants from you guys, or not grants, but loans?
Yeah, loans.
I'm afraid, sorry, that was just Freudian slip there, sorry about that.
Wish we had grants. We only have loans. Let's see. So recently we closed a loan on the Kona side for a coffee farm operation. So they were already kind of doing their own production, and then they expanded, so they needed to purchase additional land. So it was that particular property, I think, had a house on it. It wasn't permitted, but the primary thing was the coffee operation that they were purchasing, and the trees were already going to start to be in full production. So we've done that. We've done vacant land in Puna for pineapples.
I guess what I was asking were parameters of size, amount, and eligibility, and sort of like how big, how much they cost, you know.
We don't really have like a minimum. If it's
Okay.
1 acre that you need for your particular type of operation, because we work with so many different commodities, then it's whatever it is that you're going to use to show it's part of your operation, it's part of your operating plan for your
Right.
income and expenses and how you can afford it.
What about a larger piece of property?
A larger piece of property, we don't loan limit, 300,000, like.
The loan limit is
Yeah.
$50,000. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
No,
what I
no,
was-
kind of answer.
That's what I was.
Sorry,
Okay,
300,000.
thank you.
Yes, so microloan is 50 and under, and the microloan you can actually do for a purchase now as well, 50,000 and under, and then the maximum is 300. And that goes for ownership and operating. So once you exceed the 50, then it'll be like operating loan for more than 50, up to 300,000.
And for that loan, do you need to be a full-time farmer or?
You don't necessarily have to be. We have a lot of farmers and ranchers who have full-time jobs in addition to farming.
Explain how you guys manage
Okay, so we mitigate our risk by reviewing all of the information you've provided. So we look at what's collateral, we look at income and expenses, your cash flow, maybe your experience. So we can look at all of those different things to help with your loan.
and figure out, how that all plays into it, because maybe your experience is really strong, and your cash flow is kind of tight, because we can go, because we are, lender last resort, we can have kind of a little bit riskier loans, depending on where you stand, and your credit also comes into play, it's acceptable credit. So we don't really look at the number, we look at more of your repayment history and how you use credit.
Do you help with the application process?
We do.
So you would take the farm and the actual
Yes,
process?
yes, so we,
Very,
mhm.
a lot of information.
Yes, so it is quite a bit of information, so we do usually like to set up an appointment, kind of go over all of those eligibility requirements, see what kind of questions you have, or where you fall in there that we might say, oh, let's talk about this a little bit further. And then we also like to, if you're ready for an application, then we can give you the application, we'll go over all of the forms, kind of explain them, let you know what certain things mean, because of course it's the government, so we have like the form, blah, 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 and it's asking for this, and, the terms might not be so user-friendly to, the average person, so we make sure that we explain all of that to you. And then you take it home, you fill it out, and then you come back, and we might still have to go ahead and finish completing some of the information. And we are open 7:30 to 4, Monday through Friday. So we're always there except for federal holidays when we're closed on the weekend. So we take appointments all the time, and we, more than welcome you to come in. And we're very happy to talk to you about it. And like Hannah was saying too, we direct you in case maybe you need some help, you want to work on a business plan or something like that, or you need more information. So we will direct you to the Kohala Center. We will direct you to the Small Business Development Center so that they can help you with that business plan. So, any other questions?
Does things like consultation as income count as, it is even though it's a farming?
It's like as far as your
As income, yeah.
It's self-employment.
Mhm.
So usually we look at we try and look at the past 3 years and do an average, because every year it's going to be different. It's not the same usually when
Yeah.
you're self-employed.
Mhm.
But yes, we do look at that. We look at everything, to all of your income and expenses for the farm. And then if you have non-farm income, that's even better to support, if the farm is not maybe covering all the expenses, then maybe your non-farm income is providing that. And then also your income would need to cover the farm and then your personal as well. It would cost for you to live, you put gas in the car, pay all of the bills. So it's quite a bit of information. Any other questions?
I have a question about how, I guess, if you're on lease land and you need a loan for equipment or operating costs or maybe infrastructure to put up a fence, put in a fumigation system, that sort of thing, how does the collateral work in that scenario if you don't own the land?
Okay, if you don't own the land and you're on lease, of course, we're looking at how long your lease is going to be, like maybe it's 7 years, 10 years, depending on what it is. Like if you're doing fencing, something like that, because we can't physically take the fence and say, oh, you default on your loan, we're gonna sell this fence, right? We look at other things that you might have as collateral. We call it like chattel or farm chattel. It can be any pieces of equipment that you have, sprayers, tractors, pulpers, anything like that. If you also have other equipment that you use maybe for what we'll call your non-farm job, like excavator, because you do construction or something. Then we can look at all of that equipment as long as it's free and clear to use as collateral for that particular item to cover it. And sometimes I'm sorry.
Anything for the repo man.
We do have a program in place to help if something does happen to your operation and it's something beyond your control, like Mother Nature and tsunamis and tropical storms and lava and flooding and drought. So we have all that where we can do what we call it primary loan servicing. You can look at extending your loan, maybe your term was originally for 5 years, but maybe you can send it out to 10 to help reduce the payments. To get you, to make sure that, because we want people farming. We don't want to go and take your tractor. Like, oh, you didn't make your payments, we're taking it out. So we want to help farmers and ranchers continue to do.
Lines, do you guys have some program like that where you can rewrite loans or help extend the loan
Yeah.
to people who are in natural disasters?
I always tell people that in my time I've been with Farm Credit, I think we foreclosed, 35 years, I think we foreclosed on half a dozen people. So, and the reason is, we're willing to work with the people, try and restructure the loan, especially if it's, Mother Nature caused. I mean, if you're constantly losing money and going to Vegas at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't know if I can help you, because you're not really there, you're not really helping yourself. And I've actually had that happen. But if you're willing to help, we're willing to sit down and work with you, work out a plan, restructure it, so that like she said, like Jennifer said, we're here to keep you farming. We want to increase farmers, we're not there to take away the farm, take away the tractor. Believe me, that's the last thing we want to do. The legal headaches and everything is just terrible. So yeah, I think all the agencies are willing to work with people and try to work the thing out somehow, and then USDA has a lot of insurance programs that you can work out with your crops and so forth. So if you do have droughts and so forth, they have different programs to assist you as well.
The other side of our agency is farm programs, and they do like crop insurance for crops that are not insurable through other, standard insurance agencies. They do coffee and avocado orchard, I think, all sorts of things. And then we have a reimbursement program too, where because it costs more to have things shipped here, so it's more expensive when you go to EEI and purchase your chemicals, right? Because there's an additional fee. They have a program set up, which I think the application process might be opening now, where it's called like the acronym is RTCP, and so it's for your expenses, that anything that you purchased here for your operation throughout the year.
And it covers fuel costs.
It covers shipping. If you ship, so this is not my expertise.
Is it through your agency?
It is through farm programs. It's farm program side of the Farm Service Agency.
Okay.
So I can give you the contact number to call.
That would be great. I've been
For
getting
that.
my receipts for that purpose, and that was told there's a
Yes.
reimbursement
Yes,
process for.
yes, and there's an application, so there's an application period, and you have to turn in your application by a certain time, and then there's like a receipt deadline after you've turned in that specific application, and then there's a deadline for you to turn in all of the receipts.
Okay.
That would cover any input basically, because anything that's not locally produced.
Yeah, that you purchased, up to a certain point.
And there's only a certain amount of funding, I think.
Right. So every year, more and more producers apply for it because more and more people are finding out. So then the amount they're reimbursed back is, a fraction, a percentage, whatever the total amount is. So but that's a very good program if you're already in production and you have expenses that you want to look at. And I think they've got it figured out to where they even know, if you can have up to this amount and probably gonna get back maybe, $300 or something like that. And then you have to figure out, depending on your record keeping, if, that's worth your time to organize all of that, if you're not keeping track, right? Because our agency is very big on record keeping. So we wanna look at your records. When you come in for a loan, we wanna know what your production history was, year to date, or the past 3 years, depending on the type of loan you're coming in for. So it's very important.
Any other
this. Does everyone have a brochure?
I do not.
Okay. I'm going to be just going over some of our programs with you, some of our parameters, so you may want to actually just jot down some notes. How many of you knew that the State Department of Agriculture actually did financing or make loans? Okay.
I didn't find that out until 5 years after I started my farm.
Wow, okay, yeah. Well, our office is located out at the State Building on Alpini Street. It's that big white building. We're right near the Department of Taxation, about 3 doors down. So that's where we're located. And I guess I just want to go over some of our basic requirements. How many of you are U.S. citizens? Raise it. Okay, looks like everybody in the house is. Okay. And what about Hawaii residency? 3 years. Okay, congratulations. You've met our most basic requirements to apply for financing. So those two are pretty critical that you meet. The other one is, like Linus alluded to, is that you need to actually have private lender denial. And depending on the type of program you're applying for, it can be anywhere from 1 to 2. Now, if you're going into an aquaculture operation, that would be 3. Okay? So that's basically what a lender denial is. You go and apply with a bank, a credit union. It can be over at Farm Service. It can be Farm Credit. It can be a mortgage brokerage company. But if they deny you, that's a loan denial. So anywhere from 1 to 3 loan denials. Okay, so why should you go with us? Well, you went over to the bank and the bank said no, right? So, we're not going to turn our back on you. We're not going to abandon our friends. We're going to work with you. We're going to help you through the process. Our application process is very easy. You submit a loan application. You can download it online, and it'll take you probably about 5 minutes to complete. All it does is ask you for your name, social security number, how long you resided in the islands, and what the purpose and the amount of the loan is for. Along with that form, a personal financial statement, just listing your assets, liabilities, and what kind of income you got. So that'll take you about 10 minutes, but that's all you gotta submit. And if you don't know how to do it, then you just pick up the phone and you call. I take care of all the way from South Point Road on the Hilo side, all the way over to Honoka'a. Anything on the west side, there's a Kona loan officer, so he will be able to assist you. Okay, what kind of loan programs do we have? How many of you have operated the farm for at least 2 years minimum? Okay. 2 years minimum is a requirement for a new farmer loan. So, a qualified farmer loan. So if you actually have 2 years of farm operations, then you can actually go into 2 types of loan programs. One is a farm ownership loan. The loan maximum amount is $800,000. The interest rate is 3.375 fixed for up to 40 years. Now, I haven't seen any loan go up to 40 years in my time. Normally, it goes up to 30 years. Then we have like an operating loan for the Qualified Farmer Program. So the operating loans, they go up to 10 years in term, same interest rate, 3.375% fixed. And yeah, that's how the operating loan works. Now the farm ownership loan, what is that? What is an operating loan? What's a farm ownership loan? Well, the ownership loan is for the purchase or improvement of a farm property. So you're going to acquire a farm, you're going to actually build some sort of dwelling or structure that's permanent. That would be like a farm ownership type loan. Up to 40 years is the term. So we let you have a long amortization process. The operating types of loans, that's more for your typical everyday operating expenses. That's for purchase of equipment. It's for purchase of livestock, things like that.
What's the maximum on the operating loan?
It'll be 800,000 too.
Oh, that one's saying.
For a qualified farmer. So now you have two different segments within the qualified farmer program. 8 for the farm ownership, 8 for the operating. So a total of 1.6 million. If you can call it.
So you could apply for both types of loans, and one would purchase the farm, and one would help you fund your
Yes.
operations.
Absolutely. Okay, that's our qualified farmer. So how many years experience farming you gotta have? 3.
Only 2.
2. Absolutely. 2 years. Okay, the other one I'm going to talk about tonight is just, I want to do this quickly and everybody's getting tired. New farmer loan. This one is designed for starting a new farm. Normally or typically you would actually have to get a degree from an accredited university or community college in agriculture, or have taken coursework that has led to a certificate to show or evidence that you do and know how to farm. So, loan thresholds, 250,000 is the maximum amount for a new farmer loan. Again, you have the operating and you have the farm ownership. Same terms, 40 and 10. 40 and 10. Interest rate is lower. We're going to cut them some slack. So instead of 3.375, it's 3%. But please, don't get too caught up on what the interest rates are between 5.25%, 5.5%, to 3%, to 2.25%, because it's not that much of a difference when you actually factor it out. What is important is who is going to be able to help you with your farm. Who's going to actually allow you to fund your farm? That's what you're looking for. Okay? Questions about the new farmer loan or the qualified farmer loan? Oh.
I'm going to ask you this so that I don't have to say it. Where lava zones? Where do you land?
Okay. Now this is, we got a referral from Farm Credit, and this is with regard to a lava zone 1 applicant. So I guess in the history of lava flows, it is actually 0.25% of that area has been inundated by lava within the last 125 years, something like that. Well, anyway, from Linus's office, it came our way. The applicant did indeed qualify. They owned a McNutt farm. They farmed, I think they have 4 acres now, but they had at one time 10 acres of an original 120-acre farm. Nobody else would actually lend to these people. No mortgage company, no. But they called us, and then we did the loan. So next month, it goes before the board for approval, the Board of Agriculture. And then finally, the last loan program I wanted to go over is our food manufacturer program. Anybody here does food manufacturing? Hey, okay. Okay, so the only thing about that program that is a requirement, 2 years of operations, but it needs to have a commodity or a crop that's actually grown in Hawaii. So if you include McNuts, ava, whatever it is, as long as that is included, then you can qualify for a food manufacturer loan. Facility loans up to $500,000, and then for an operating loan, $200,000. 20 years for the facility loan, 7 years for the operating loan. Any questions there? I didn't want to actually bore you with all these metrics and parameters. Main thing is, you know that we have like an abundance of loan programs that you can qualify for, and that we are there to assist you. You know, one thing that Jennifer did talk to you folks about that is very critical that you need to keep in the back of your mind on how to fund your farm, and it's that how does the state go about determining who is qualified for a loan or not? So number one is the capacity of that individual to repay the loan. You must generate enough income or cash flow to show that you can service that monthly debt. Okay, that's first and foremost collateral. And this is how you may actually pledge one of your assets that you own, whether it be a tractor, a free and clear automobile, or the farm, as collateral to strengthen your request. The other one is your capital or your amount that you put into the farm. So that's the third one. The more you put into your venture, the stronger your request becomes. The environmental conditions or the economic conditions, what's happening out there. And then finally is your character. And this is probably, I would say, number one on the list. And it's your experience, your background, and how you pay your obligations over time. And if you show strength there, then everything will fall into place. We're here to work with you, like Ryan said. We're not going to abandon our friends. That's not who we are. We're not looking to foreclose on anybody. What am I going to do with a tractor? I mean, really, what am I going to do with a tractor or a tiller or a mower? No way, I can't do anything with it. Okay, so, went over some of our, I guess, loan programs, why choose us, some of the loan, I guess, guidelines that we use to approve your loan in the last 10 minutes. Any questions for me?
I have a question.
Okay.
So, just distinguishing between a qualified farmer and a new farmer. Is a qualified farmer somebody that's been running an operation or owns an operation for 2 years? Like say if you had been the manager of another farm for over 2 years, are you a qualified farmer or are you a new farmer if you're getting a loan to start your own operation?
That's a very good question, because there's a lot of gray area with our statutes and the definitions of our statutes. So, you know, if you're going to ask me what program it is, qualified farmer is 2 years that you've operated and you show income from the farm for 2 years. The new farmer is a new farmer that is actually going to start a new farm. Okay, so what you're telling me right now is that he was a farm manager for two years, excuse me. That would actually fall more into the new farmer, right? That you have demonstrated the necessary experience and skills to make or allow your farm to be successful. And that's more of a new farmer. You're going out on your own. Right? Yeah. Questions? Okay, I'm Portuguese too, but only quarter. Tavares is, I don't know how much he is. But thank you for having me here.
All right, well, does anybody have any other questions for any of our presenters or for me about the Farmers Union? All right, well, thank you guys all for coming, and big thank you to the Sweet King Cafe for always hosting us. Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure.
30 dishes, go in this big